Lightning cracks over Midtown Manhattan, and for 3 full seconds the entire 50th floor goes black. Ryan Parker stands frozen in the service elevator, his radio crackling with a voice he's never heard use his name before. "Parker, get up to 50. Now, water's coming through the ceiling." His stomach drops. Nobody gets called to 50. Not maintenance, not security, not even the building manager without an escort. The doors open onto a hallway lit only by emergency strips along the floor, red light bleeding across dark marble. Rain hammers the windows so hard the glass seems to breathe. Ryan grips his mop bucket and steps out, his boots echoing off walls he's never been allowed to touch. He doesn't know why they picked him. He only knows he can't afford to say no. 6 months ago, a corporate downsizing took his construction management job in one afternoon email. Now he cleans this tower every night while his son sleeps 8 miles away with an inhaler on his nightstand and a stack of hospital bills nobody's paying down fast enough. The people on this floor don't know his name. To them, he's a uniform, a mop, a shadow that empties trash cans after they've gone home. The only person who lives up here full-time is Victoria Langford, and nobody talks about her without lowering their voice first. CEO of Langford Aerospace. Cold. Untouchable. The kind of woman who fires people without looking up from her phone. Before you go any further with me tonight, tell me where you're watching this from and what time it is right where you are. I like knowing who's sitting with me for this one. Ryan reaches the executive suite. The door is unlocked, which is wrong. Water drips somewhere behind the walls, a slow, rhythmic tap he can't place. He knocks once, gets no answer, and pushes the door open expecting an empty room. It isn't empty. Victoria Langford stands with her back to him, her blouse half off her shoulder, and Ryan's first instinct is to look away, to apologize, to disappear back into the hallway before she turns around. He starts to, but his eyes catch something they weren't supposed to see, and his feet stop moving. Her back is wrapped in a thick brace, buckled tight from her shoulder blades to her waist. Beneath it, her skin is a map of deep bruising, purple fatting into yellow, the kind of damage that takes months to heal, not days. Her hands shake as she reaches for the last strap. She can't get it fastened. She can't stand without holding onto the desk. The woman everyone in this building is afraid of can barely hold herself upright. Ryan doesn't say a word. He steps back into the hallway and pulls the door shut with a quiet click, his heart slamming against his ribs. Whatever he just saw, it wasn't meant for him. And now he's certain of one thing. By morning, he won't have a job. He drives home before sunrise and finds Noah curled up in bed, his inhaler resting on the pillow beside him just in case. Ryan sits on the edge of the mattress and watches his son breathe for a long time. He doesn't wake him. He doesn't tell him what happened. He just sits there in the dark, turning it over, wondering what he just walked into. The call comes the next afternoon. Report to the 50th floor immediately. When Ryan steps off the elevator, 2 men in expensive suits are already waiting outside Victoria's office, folders tucked under their arms. Lawyers. His mouth goes dry. This is it. This is where it ends. Victoria doesn't stand when he walks in. She simply slides a thick folder across the desk toward him without a word. Ryan opens it and his blood goes cold. Every page inside has his name on it, his debts, his foreclosure notice. Noah's medical records, even his grocery receipts from last week. Someone has been watching his entire life, and he has no idea why. If you want to see what's inside that folder and why she really called him in, hit subscribe now, because Chapter 2 goes somewhere you won't expect. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from tonight. Ryan's hands tighten on the folder. Every private detail of his life is laid out on the desk in front of him like evidence in a trial he never agreed to stand for. His unpaid mortgage, Noah's asthma diagnosis, even the $12 he spent on groceries last Tuesday. He feels sick, exposed, like someone reached into his home and turned it inside out. "Know how this looks," Victoria says, her voice steady despite the tremor still in her hands. "I ordered this the moment I realized you'd seen me last night." She doesn't apologize, she explains. 3 months ago, her helicopter went down returning from a classified meeting in Colorado. She survived, but her spine didn't come out clean. Fractured vertebrae, cracked ribs. A recovery doctors measured in months, not weeks. If the board found out, they wouldn't wait for her to heal. They'd vote her out before she could stand on her own. She tells him about Nathan Briggs, her chief operating officer, careful with her words. Ambitious, she calls him. Persuasive. A man who spent the last few weeks quietly meeting with directors behind closed doors, always with a reasonable explanation ready. Nothing anyone could call wrong. Not yet. I didn't investigate you because I thought you'd talk, Victoria says. I investigated you because you walked away last night without saying a word. Most people would have taken a photo, sold the story. You closed the door. She needs someone outside the company's politics. Someone strong enough to help her walk and quiet enough to keep it a secret. She offers him $3,000 a week, a title that means nothing, and a job that means everything. Make sure nobody finds out America's toughest CEO can barely stand. Ryan almost says no. It feels like too much, too strange, too dangerous to be real. Then he stops at the pharmacy on his way home and watches the cashier ring up Noah's inhaler refill, the price higher than what's left in his account. He calls Victoria's office before he even reaches his car. The weeks that follow settle into a strange, careful rhythm. Ryan learns how to walk half a step behind her so his hand is there before she needs it. He learns to tighten the brace beneath her blazer in under a minute, to recognize the small tremor in her left hand that means the pain has crossed a line she won't admit to. In boardrooms, she is untouchable. In the hallway afterward, she leans on him like he's the only solid thing in the building. One evening, waiting for her to finish a call, Ryan notices a small photograph tucked inside her top desk drawer, half hidden beneath a stack of contracts. She catches him looking and closes the drawer without a word. He doesn't ask. He files it away, the way he files everything now. Late that same night, passing the glass-walled conference room on his way to lock up, Ryan hears Nathan's voice, low and certain, talking to someone Ryan can't see. By next month, Nathan says. This company won't belong to her anymore. Ryan stops walking. He doesn't breathe. He stands just outside the light, listening, realizing he's no longer just protecting a secret. He's standing in the middle of a war nobody else can see coming. If you're still with me, drop a comment and tell me what you think Nathan is really planning, because Chapter 3 is where things start moving fast. The warning signs come quietly at first. Nathan starts running meetings that used to belong to Victoria, always with a smile, always with a reason. Patrick Doyle, her chief financial officer for 15 years, stops making eye contact with her in the hallway. Board members whisper in twos and threes near the elevators, falling silent whenever Ryan walks past with his cart. Victoria keeps her chin up through all of it, telling the room nothing is wrong, telling Ryan the same thing every morning like she's convincing herself to. At home, Noah notices things his father can't hide. "You look tired again, Dad," he says one night, pushing peas around his plate instead of eating them. Tells him he's fine. He skips his own dinner so there's enough left for Noah's lunch tomorrow, and Noah pretends not to notice, the way 8-year-olds do when they understand more than adults give them credit for. At school, Noah tells his class his dad works in the tallest building in the city. He doesn't mention the mop. Ryan reads business books after midnight now, the same ones he studied years ago before construction management became a job he lost in one email. Victoria starts noticing. She asks his opinion on a vendor contract one afternoon, half as a test. His answer surprises her enough that she asks again the next day, and the day after that. Slowly, without either of them nomming it, employer and employee become something closer to allies. She tells him about Boston one evening, waiting for her pain medication to kick in, growing up with nothing, getting turned away from engineering firms that didn't want a woman in the room, let alone one from her zip code, building Langford Aerospace from a folding table in a rented office because no one would give her a chair anywhere else. Ryan listens and realizes she wasn't always untouchable. She became that way because the world never gave her another option. Then Ryan hears something he can't unhear. Passing the executive floor late one night, he catches Nathan on a call, describing medical documents that don't exist, evidence built to make Victoria look unstable in front of the board. Ryan records it on his phone, his hand steady even though his pulse isn't. When he plays it for her, Victoria wants to walk into Nathan's office immediately and end it. Ryan stops her. "If you confront him now, he'll say you made it up," he says. "We need proof he can't talk his way out of." She stares at him for a long moment, something shifting behind her eyes. It's the first time she's looked at him like she trusts him completely, not just with her secret but with her company. Digging through old financial reports a few nights later, searching for anything that connects Nathan to the falsified records, Ryan finds numbers that don't add up. Accounts adjusted. Transfers buried under vendor names that don't exist. This isn't a man positioning himself for a promotion. This is someone quietly stealing the company out from under her. Ryan photographs another page, his phone held low near the desk lamp so the flash won't catch. Behind him in the hallway he hears footsteps. Slow, deliberate, getting closer. He doesn't have time to put the folder back. The door handle turns. Comment below and tell me who you think just walked in, because what happens next in Chapter 4 changes everything. Ryan freezes as the door swings open, his phone still lit in his hand. It's not Nathan. A cleaning cart rolls past in the hallway outside, pushed by another night shift worker who never even glances into the dark office. Ryan lets out the breath he's been holding and slips the folder back into place, his heart still pounding as he leaves the way he came. He shows Victoria everything the next morning, laying out the altered transfers on her desk like pieces of a puzzle neither of them wants finished. She doesn't call security. She doesn't call her lawyers. She picks up a private line and speaks to someone she clearly trusts from her years working defense contracts, someone with federal credentials and no connection to Langford Aerospace's board. The investigation begins quietly, buried under everyday business, invisible to everyone except the three people who know it exists. Nathan doesn't slow down. If anything, he grows bolder, holding court in meetings Victoria isn't even in, dropping comments about her health with just enough concern in his voice to sound caring instead of calculated. Within days, anonymous stories start appearing online, questioning whether the CEO is fit to lead. The board splits into two camps, whispering in corners, watching Victoria for any sign of weakness she might confirm. One night after a meeting that leaves her hands shaking worse than usual, Victoria finally says it out loud. "I'm so tired of pretending I'm fine," she tells Ryan, staring at the city lights instead of him. "Every single day, every meeting, every hallway, I don't remember what it feels like to just exist without performing strength." Ryan doesn't know what to say, so instead he reaches into his jacket and pulls out a folded piece of paper Noah drew for him weeks ago. He hands it to her without explanation. It's a crayon drawing of Ryan wearing a cape, holding a small boy's hand. Across the top, in careful 8-year-old handwriting, it says, "My dad always saves people." Victoria studies it for a long moment. Something in her face changes, the composure she wears like armor finally slipping away. "Thank you," she says quietly, and for the first time she isn't talking to an employee. She's talking to a friend. Ryan drives home that night lost in thought, replaying her voice in his head. When he opens the door, Noah runs at him and wraps both arms around his waist before Ryan even sets down his keys. He holds his son a little longer than usual, realizing he isn't just protecting Victoria anymore. He's been quietly holding two families together at once, and neither of them knows how close they are to losing everything. The next afternoon, word spreads through the building fast. Nathan has scheduled an emergency shareholder vote set for the end of the week. He's not waiting anymore. He believes the moment has finally come. Ryan feels the countdown begin the second he hears the date. That night his phone buzzes at 2 a.m. It's a message from Victoria, only 3 words long, and they're enough to send him running out the door before he even finds his shoes. She's collapsed. Alone. And no one else knows. If this story has you holding your breath, subscribe now. Because Chapter 5 is where everything comes to a head. Tell me in the comments, do you think Ryan makes it in time? Ryan runs 3 red lights getting across Manhattan, his phone gripped so tight his knuckles ache. When he reaches Victoria's penthouse, the door is unlocked, and he finds her on the floor of her bedroom, one hand pressed against her ribs, gasping for air that won't come easy. The brace has shifted. Hours of standing through back-to-back meetings pushed it out of place, and now it's digging into bone that hasn't fully healed. Ryan kneels beside her and works the straps loose with steady hands, careful, unhurried, even though his own pulse is racing. When the brace finally comes free, Victoria breathes deep for the first time in hours, and then she starts to cry. It isn't the pain. Ryan can see that much. It's everything underneath it, the months of holding herself together in front of a room full of people who are waiting for her to fall. "I didn't want anyone to see me like this," she says, her voice breaking. "Not ever, not once." "You don't have to hide it from me," Ryan says. "Hiding it from everyone else is what's breaking you." She nods, wiping her face, and for the first time since the crash, she lets someone else carry the weight instead of pretending it isn't there. Later that night, the federal investigators confirm what Ryan already suspected. They have enough now. Wire transfers, forged signatures, recorded conversations. Enough to end Nathan's plan before it starts. But Nathan doesn't know that. He spends the next 2 days preparing for what he believes will be the easiest win of his career, confident the board will vote Victoria out the moment he opens his mouth. Board members start arriving at the building early, murmuring that tomorrow will be the end of her leadership. Nobody outside 3 people in the entire company knows what's about to happen instead. That evening, Ryan sits with Noah at the kitchen table, helping him finish a poster for his school science fair. "You'll be there tomorrow, right?" Noah asks, not looking up from his markers. Ryan promises he will, no matter what happens at work. Noah just smiles, calm and certain in a way only kids manage to be. "I already know you'll keep your promise," he says, like there was never any doubt. Morning comes fast. Shareholders fill the boardroom on the 50th floor, and Nathan stands at the head of the table like he already owns it. He begins speaking, calm and rehearsed, laying out concerns about Victoria's health, her judgment, her fitness to lead a company this size. Several board members nod along. For a moment, watching Victoria's face stay perfectly still, it looks like everything they've fought to protect is about to slip away. Nathan finishes his opening and turns to the board, demanding an immediate vote to remove Victoria as CEO. Hands start to rise around the table. Then the conference room doors open, and several federal investigators walk inside. Subscribe now if you want to see Nathan's face when he realizes what's about to happen. Comment below, what do you think the investigators found? The room goes silent the second the investigators step inside. Nathan's hand is still raised mid-sentence when the presentation screens behind him flicker to life, filling the wall with financial records nobody in that boardroom has ever seen before. Wire transfers routed through shell accounts. Signatures forged onto medical documents. Bribes disguised as consulting fees paid to board members sitting in that very room. Then Ryan's recordings play, Nathan's own voice describing a plan to remove Victoria using evidence he invented. Security footage follows, timestamps lining up with every quiet meeting he thought no one noticed. Nathan starts talking over the audio, denying everything, but his voice cracks halfway through, and nobody in the room is listening to him anymore. Patrick Doyle sits frozen at the far end of the table, the color draining from his face as his own name appears on a wire transfer meant to buy his loyalty. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't need to. Both men are escorted out within minutes, and the boardroom that was ready to vote Victoria out an hour ago sits in stunned silence, several directors quietly apologizing before she's even had the chance to speak. Victoria stands slowly, steadier than anyone in that room realizes it costs her to do. She doesn't ask for revenge. She doesn't demand apologies or public statements against the men who tried to destroy her. Instead, she announces a medically supervised leave of absence, built on complete transparency, with independent oversight guiding the company while she heals. No more hiding. No more pretending. Shareholders, expecting a scandal, give her something she wasn't expecting back: their full support. Months pass quickly after that. Ryan finishes the executive education program Victoria insisted on paying for and steps into a new role as Director of Corporate Operations, a title that once would have sounded impossible for a man who used to push a mop through these same hallways at midnight. Employee morale climbs faster than anyone predicts, because Ryan remembers exactly what it felt like to be invisible, and he makes sure no one on his team ever feels that way again. Noah's asthma finally stays under control, his inhalers never running low again. The savings account Ryan opened with his first real paycheck in years keeps growing, slow and steady, the way things are supposed to grow when nobody's drowning anymore. Victoria returns to the office healthier than she's been since the crash, and the company around her changes with her, fear giving way to something closer to respect. Years later, visitors walking through the lobby of Langford Aerospace pass two framed photographs hanging side by side. One shows Victoria signing the largest contract in the company's history. The other shows Ryan the day he was promoted, Noah standing beside him, grinning too wide for the camera. Most people assume the photos are about business. Only 3 people know what they really mean. One evening, Noah stops in front of the photographs, staring at his father's picture a little longer than usual. "I always knew you were the strongest man I knew," he says quietly, not looking away from the frame. Ryan doesn't say anything back. He just smiles because some victories were never meant to be explained. They were only ever meant to be seen quietly by the one person who mattered most all along. If this story moved you, subscribe for more and tell me in the comments what part hit you the hardest.